All right, we are back with another pick'em video. Going to be talking MLB baseball in this one. Not going to be running through all the games. Let me know in the comments if you're getting destroyed by your allergies this year. My allergies have been kicking my butt. So I know I'll lose my voice if I talk that long. So we're just going to talk about one play. It's going to be a four-man play over on PrizePicks. You should be able to play these on other places in different types of ways because we're going to be breaking down this specific game because it's going to be in one game. It's going to be a correlated stack in baseball on PrizePicks. I think it's one of the best ways to bet baseball, and you're going to kind of see the power of it as we kind of walk through it. And, you can take that into account for other games if you want to be stacking other games and things like that. So people do this in football all the time. If a quarterback, you want to take over their passing yards, it makes sense to go to their receivers and go over their receiving yards. That just correlates really well. Well, in baseball, it's similar. If you're going over, a pitcher's fantasy score, well, you might want to be, backing their hitters because you think they're going to be taking the lead, which would be, more fantasy points for a win or a quality start. Or you want to look at the other team, who they're pitching against. If you're taking the pitchers over fantasy score, look at some unders for some hitters, and that will correlate really well. You're going to take a little bit of a hit in terms of the payout, but that's just how it goes. It's a better opportunity to hit. If this guy's throwing an absolute gem, the hitter's not going to be able to do much against him. So that's what we're talking about in this one. As for basketball yesterday, bad video picks, but I think we talked a lot about it, some certain things. We talked about the spread of the game. We did have that as a lean. So there was a lot of winners in terms of what we talked about. Just the individual picks that we went through were not hitters. And again, 4-0 in the first game, 0-3 in the second game. That's just sometimes how it goes. But again, we talked about some other dudes. Drew Holiday was one of our main leans. He had an awesome game, and we're going to be talking about this when we have our video for Game 3. So not going to bore you guys on this, but just did have a bad day yesterday in terms of basketball. But if you're new around here, definitely go ahead and subscribe. Leave the video a like, comment something down below. Again, we're going to be talking about some stackage. Hopefully this maybe is just strategy you don't know about, and you can kind of build on that and make your own slips with some other stackered opportunities, because there usually is some where you're like, hey, I really favor this pitcher. Let's look at some unders for the other side and get some correlation there. So let's just jump right into it. All right, so jumping into our data app called Outlier. It's a partner of the channel. You can check it out for a free week if you're like, damn, this tool is awesome. I want to check this thing out. Yeah, you can get a free week using my link in the description. Just going to let them know that I sent you there. So it's a great way to support the channel. And again, you're going to see how powerful it is. So we're talking about a fun game. How about Yankees versus Royals? Both these teams have been offensively awesome, and they got two great pitchers going up against each other in Rodon for the Yankees and Seth Lugo for the Royals here. So let's take a look at their stats here. Record-wise for Seth Lugo, 9-1, ERA of 2.13, innings pitched 84, so he's got a ton of innings under his belt. 7.58 in terms of strikeouts per nine. That's probably 50th percentile. He's not a huge strikeout guy. And then a whip of 1.02. That's going to be pretty elite, 80th percentile or some sort. So Lugo looking really good in this matchup. I really start when I look at these, I say, hey, who's got the pitching and matchup advantage in this? Is this a game I want to stack? Is there a reason to stack, one pitcher, favor one pitcher than the other? So Lugo looking obviously really good. But Carlos Rodon not too far behind him in terms of his stats. 8-2 record. They've both been getting dubs. ERA of 3.08. It's a little bit worse than Lugo here, but still very, very solid. 73 in terms of innings pitched. He's been pitching a lot. We got a lot of history. Strikeouts per nine, 8.75. Okay, Rodon's got a little bit of a boost here in terms of his strikeouts. He's probably the better strikeout pitcher. And then a whip of 1.08. So, again, a slight edge to Lugo here. So, if you had to say, hey, who is the better pitcher in this? They look really good on paper. Both of them have been definitely above average guys. But I'm probably leaning Lugo here. But you got to take a little bit step further. So, let's go into their individual pages here. Rodon, 31.5 fantasy score. I'm just going to tell you guys right now, this is going to be our first play, and I'm taking the under. My last five Warriors, the guys that just look at the last 5 games, are going to hate this pick. You're going to see this on PrizePicks or whatever you're on and say, he's gone over this in 5 straight games. Well, there's a reason that, he's averaging the last 5 games. What is the average here for fantasy score? 40. Why isn't this line at 38.5 or something? Well, there's a reason because of that. They got some history going up against a tough Royals offense and an offense that absolutely crushes right-handed pitching. I meant to say left-handed pitching right there. This is post-edit, but left-handed pitching. They crush lefties. So again, not looking great in terms of hit rate, but let's look a little bit farther. And the first thing I want to say before I get into the offense of the Royals is that he's not as good as at away games. So 50-50 in terms of away games. Yes, he's won 3 straight, but he dropped 3 straight to start the year. So very 50-50. This hit rate looks a little bit more better to go to, considering we're going on the under here. Now let's take a look at the Royals offense. I'm going to take a look at his outs because it's going to let us see all those Royals offense here. And I'm going to turn it green because all these are good stats for us, seeing as we're taking the under for Rodon. So let's see. Kansas City going up against left-handed pitching specifically. How about 320 batting average in the last 30 days going up against left-handed pitching? Absolutely ridiculous, and it's not too far off their normal average. I mean, 320 is ridiculous, but they're still ranked 3rd against left-handed pitching for the entire year. batting 270. You see all the stats are green. Last 30 days, they've been 1, 2, or 3 in literally every single batting statistic you can look at here. And yeah, that's a great thing for us if we're wanting to take the under on Rodon here, and that's what we're going to be looking at. So now you got to start thinking, okay, they have a head-to-head. You see the tabs right here. How has he played against them in the past? If he's played them this year, if he's played them last year, it's going to be relatively similar in terms of how he's done. So head-to-head here. How about 0 outs? This isn't a joke. 0 outs. How does that even happen? He pitched. He started the game. He couldn't record 1 out. That is true. This is back in September when he went against the Royals. He gave up 8 earned runs. We'll take a look at that. 8 earned runs. He gave up 6 hits. 6 hits right here. And he didn't record a single out. His fantasy score was a -24 in this game. So now that 31.5 maybe looking a little bit too high, and the under's looking a little bit better. So that's where I'm starting. That's where we're going to go to Rodon. He's got a horrible history against this team. The Kansas City Royals have been absolutely crushing lefties. He's a lefty, and he's not as effective away. So that's where we're going to be starting. Rodon, under 31.5 pitcher fantasy score. How can we build on this? Is this a good play just by itself? Maybe not, maybe, but it makes a lot of sense to now start stacking these guys. Maybe you want to be looking at a guy like Perez or Bobby Witt Jr. If he's going to be, giving up hits, it's probably going to be the guys like that. So let's start taking a look at that now. All right, so now we've established we want to go under on Rodon's fantasy score, so it would make sense, it would correlate really well if we can find any good overs for the Kansas City side of things. And that's where this box comes in. This is where I usually start. I can just go in here and say, hey, okay, here's Kansas City's bats, here's their batting averages, and then I can specifically say, versus Carlos Rodon, is there any history there? We can see a few of these guys have gone 1-1 against him. Specifically, Salvador Perez has 12 at-bats against him, batting 583 with 2 home runs and 7 RBIs. Okay, now it starts being music in my ears. Let's see how he does against lefties. Maybe he sucks against lefties. No, his is coming up as green as well because he hits better against lefties. You can see his normal batting average is 299, a little bit better here at 308. Again, 2 home runs, 8 RBIs. Hasn't seen many lefties, but when he has been, he's been hitting well. A lot of this lineup, as we said, do very well against lefties. You can see 353 for some of these guys. For Furman, 308 for Garcia. Bobby Witt, a little bit down there, but he's a great hitter as well. So, yeah, that's the first thing I'd be starting to look at and see now. Salvador Perez is going to be the first guy on my mind. Another way to start this, we're going to be looking at Perez in a second here, but another way to start this is by using an app called DG Fantasy. It's one of my favorite tools out there to combo with Outlier. And sometimes I'm like, okay, I want to go under on Rodon or a pitcher over here. Who are they facing? You can just go in here. This is integrated with PrizePicks. I can go to the Royal side of things, and now it's showing me all the PrizePicks plays that are giving me market value based on all these other sports books. And it's saying, okay, maybe take the under on Vinny. Well, I don't want to take the under. I want to take the over on someone. Okay, Seth Lugo's coming up for the first over. 27.5 fantasy score. Well, that will correlate pretty well. If I'm taking the under on Rodon, it makes sense to take the over on Seth Lugo. If he's going to get the win in this matchup, that makes sense. Maybe that's something I want to look at. And then here's our first hitter. Oh, look, Salvador Perez. He hits lefties well. He's hit this guy. He's hit Rodon specifically well. Maybe this is something I want to look at. Then you can open up his page, and I already have this pulled up. Hits, runs, and RBIs. Unfortunately, I just showed the where it looks good, but unfortunately, hasn't been doing very well. It's been very, very bad in terms of getting this the past few games. You look at the last 10. He's gotten over in 2 of the last 10 games. So another one where my last 5 Warriors probably hate this play. But let's look a little bit deeper. Go to 2024 as a whole. Obviously, had a great beginning of the year, and against left-handed pitchers, 64% of the time he goes over this. So he definitely does get that boost going up against left-handed pitching. And I think I looked right at the game he played these guys last year. I think this was the game. Yeah, I think this was the game. And he had 3 hits, 1 run, 3 RBIs in that game. So again, that was specifically against Rodon. This is looking really good to stack against each other. And you'll see the little hit we get for adding them together. 20 for 60 play would be the normal output for this. Now it's going to be 20 for 50, which isn't horrible when you think about it. They correlate pretty well. If Rodon gets smacked around, Perez is hopefully one of those guys that's doing that. So you could put this little 2-man in if you wanted to do that. It'd be a 2.5x. What is this? 2.5x. You're not going to get the full 3x as a normal 2-man over on PrizePicks. But again, it's more likely that these happen together than don't happen together. So it might go 2-0, might go 0-2, but it's less likely to go 1-1. Obviously, anything can happen, but you guys see the correlation here. I've put the point home a million times. But I want to look a little bit farther into this. I like to make 4-mans or 5-mans or things like that. And as I was doing my research here in front of you guys, remember Seth Lugo came up on our DG Fantasy tool as saying, hey, maybe look at the over and a pretty good percent to hit, 52.33. That's something that's now starting to intrigue me because if taking Rodon's under, we're taking Lugo's over, that correlates well. If Lugo gets the win, he gets more fantasy points. So that's awesome to see. If Rodon loses, that's less fantasy points for him to get. So now it starts to looking at Seth Lugo. How has he been doing? Does this line to make sense to add to our parlay, our correlated stack? And we can see he's been killing it. 85% of games he's gone over this. We talked about it earlier. He's got a 9-1 record on the season. He's been absolutely killing it. He's get home 83%, 5 of 6 games there. So this is looking all really good. Well, now let's start looking at the batters against him. We know the Yankees have been on absolute fire. It's hard to go to a pitcher's over fantasy score when they're going up against such a good offensive team like the Yankees. But when you start thinking about it, it's good to see that Seth Lugo has good track record against a lot of these hitters. Stanton, 4 at-bats, 0 hits. Judge, 5 at-bats, 0 hits. Again, some of these guys have been on an absolute tear, but if we're going to get there, if we're going to get to the over fantasy score, which 27.5 isn't very high for Seth Lugo, who's been averaging 38, it's good to see that individually he has a pretty good track record against a lot of these guys. I guess Juan Soto, batting 310 at-bats with a home run, that scares me a little bit, but again, if anyone's going to be able to do this against the Yankees, it looks like Seth Lugo's got a lot of that, a lot of good things going for him here. So really liking Seth Lugo. We can add this to our fantasy prop here, and kind of the market value, his history against the specific batters in this lineup, all looking pretty good, enough to be saying, hey, this correlates well. Let's add it to our nice correlated stack and see what happens here. And you can really stop at any time. Here's a 3-man now, 20 for 90. That's a pretty solid payout. That's almost the same payout as a normal 3-man on PrizePicks. It would be 20 for 100 for the 5x. Now it's looking like a 4.5x. So a correlated stack that's a 4.5x, that's making me feel pretty good. And you can throw a unit on it or whatever you want to do. And again, nothing's confirmed, nothing's going to happen 100%, but it's nice to see that these guys all correlate well. Maybe Rodon comes out there and throws an absolute gem, and then Judge hits 2 home runs off Lugo. Well, then it's not looking too good, but just based on the history, based on all the stats we looked at, this correlates really well, and it's looking really good in terms of odds, in terms of hit rates, in terms of matchups individually, and yeah, you can just keep building on it. So I got one more play in here, and they actually took away my play. I was going to go to Anthony Volpe under his 1.5 bases. It was looking really good, minus 133 average Sportsbooks odds. You can see it's still available on Underdog, but they took it off PrizePicks, but that's okay because I got my handy dandy DG Fantasy. I love this tool, like you guys can see. I use it in every single video. I use it every single day for my research. It's essentially saying, hey, what are all the other Sportsbooks saying compared to the PrizePicks play? And then saying, oh, take the over-under based on the billion-dollar companies that are setting these lines. PrizePicks is messing up on these particular ones. So you could literally go in here without doing any research, put in all the leagues. I got specifically the Yankees pulled up here, but put in all the leagues, all the teams, and you could just take the top 5 plays and, be in a pretty good spot to not win every single time, but, over the long run, be in a good spot to win. And just it makes the research super easy. And also when you really want to dive into plays, it makes it a lot easier too. So now I'm, liking Seth Lugo's over fantasy. I want to be now looking at some, see if there's any, unders that I like for the Yankees side of things. And the first guy popping up, Aaron Judge, under 10 fantasy points. I'm not touching it. He's been way too hot. He's been crushing everyone. I'm not touching it under on Aaron Judge for the next 2 weeks probably until he cools off a considerable amount. But I'm not taking it under on Judge. But LeMahieu right here, hits, runs, and RBIs under 1.5. Okay, that's something I could get behind. Looks like DraftKings, BetMGM, Bovada, Fliff, all these guys favoring the under. If you took it over there, they'd pay you less if you took the under than if you took the over because they're favoring the under being the more likely happenstance here. Happenstance. I can't believe I just said that. All right, but let's go to LeMahieu's page right here. Under, he doesn't have a whole lot of history, but he's gone under in 70% of games so far this year. Against right-handed pitching, 71%, 5 of 7 games. So not a whole lot of history to go off of, but it is good to see that he struggles against right-handed pitching. 208 batting average as opposed to his normal 219. And also Seth Lugo pitches a little bit better to right-handed bats. 203 batting average against as opposed to his normal 214. You see the ERA gets a little bit of a hit here too, so that's kind of a wash. But yeah, it's a pretty solid here, hit rate wise. If you want to add that, again, I want to be totally upfront and honest with you guys. I didn't use LeMahieu, but I used Volpe. So Volpe's hits or 1.5 bases comes back under or onto the page on PrizePicks. You could use that. But LeMahieu's looking like a pretty good spot here as well. Favored on the under, hit rate's been on the under. Hits right-handed pitching a little bit worse than usual, but does have a decent history against Seth Lugo, so it kind of evens each other out there. But again, you guys get the sense of it. It's up to you if you want to add another leg to this parlay, but it's good to see that, hey, if I add LeMahieu here, it's going to be another correlated slip here, correlated action on this parlay, and now we're still getting a 20 for 170, a nice 8.5x for a correlated slip. Yeah, that's going to do it for this one. Again, I just want to kind of show you guys a strategy I use. I should stick to it a little bit more because I think I have the most success stacking baseball rather than just, putting 4 plays in that look really good, just because baseball's so volatile. I say it every time. A guy can go 0 for 4, have nothing to show for it, even though he hit like a bomb to center field and it went out in the warning track, and he gets 10 feet away from a home run, but instead it's just a pop out to center or whatever it is. So very volatile. Things can always be happening that are not in your control. Guys can play worse than you expect just because they're not seeing the ball well that day, or the pitcher's got his good stuff. That's just going to happen. But correlated stacks are more likely to happen together. It's not going to hit every time. You got to understand that. This is a 8.5x for a reason. It's hard to hit. It's 1 in 12 chance or whatever if you actually break it down mathematically. But yeah, that's what we got going on today. If you're interested in this type of stuff and you had a good time of me building this, and this is what I'm going to do for multiple games if I really like a pitcher matchup against a specific team hitting, I kind of combo that up sometimes, and that's how we've been doing it. We're always talking about this stuff in the Discord right here. You can check out the Discord using the link in the description. It's a Dub Club link, and you can just use the Dub Club link, and then you got to make sure to, when you sign up, connect your Dub Club link to your Dub Club account to your Discord account, and that's how you can get in here. But there are plenty of ways to get in here for free. I don't even know if I mentioned that in this video. Signing up for PrizePicks, Underdog, Chalkboard, Sleeper, Dabble, they're all my favorite DFS apps. They all got discounts that are going on different days. That's when you want to be taking advantage of them. You can use my links in the description. It's easier than using my codes, but all the codes are right here as well. And then DG Fantasy, which is this tool I use, this is also going to equate for a free month of the Discord. So if you do sign up, just DM me, say, hey, use your code to sign up. Here's the screenshot, and I can get you right in for a free month. But that's going to do it for us today. Hopefully I'm going to be watching this Kansas City, New York game. It should be a lot of fun. They're obviously two of the better teams right now, especially offensively. But yeah, this is what we got going, a nice little correlated stack. So it's something to look into. We're going to be back to our normal, breaking down each individual game probably tomorrow or the next day. But I thought I'd show you guys this strategy because I've had some decent success doing it. But I'll see you guys tomorrow. Again, like the video, comment something down below. It's going to tell YouTube to push this thing out there a little bit more. So let me know if you like this strategy, and then subscribe if you're new. Peace out.